We're live.
All right. Welcome, everyone, and welcome back to the Utopia Experience live stream. My name is Sheldon Price. I'll be the moderator for this session today. And today's session is Engage, Inspire, Fund, some strategies for mission-driven events. And to speak on this topic, we have two really cool, incredible guests for you. First up, Joey Goon, the president of Utopia Experience. It's a full-scale event company specializing in audiovisual production, videography, and event planning based out of St. Louis. But that doesn't mean that Utopia only produces events here in Missouri. They go all around the Midwest, and this year have traveled all over the U.S. Indeed, from California to New Jersey, from Nashville, and we'll be going to places like New Mexico, to Las Vegas soon, all over the country. And Joey can also be found speaking on stage at events, and he's an active member of an entrepreneurs organization, excuse me. And our other guest here is Samantha Swaim, someone who has more than 20 years of event planning and fundraising expertise. She founded Swaim Strategies, a fundraising event consultancy, in 2004, working internationally with nonprofit organizations to produce impactful events that move missions forward. Samantha is the co-author of Planning a Successful Major Donor Event, is the founder of the annual Elevate fundraising event conference scheduled for March 12th through 13th of 2025, and is the co-host of the Fundraising Elevator podcast. Samantha and Joey, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me to join you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's really exciting. It's awesome to have Samantha here. By the way, I hear my 1.5-year-old daughter in the background screaming. She's going, ah, it's great. I want to do it back. Like,
we
like
don't hear her
in the house.
You should invite her in. We could talk with her too.
She would love it. She's learning so many new words, but right now it's just like a random call around the house to see who hears and who would reply. And I love that she's just like finding her voice and just being herself authentically without concern of judgment. Like so many of us live our lives, and she's just yelling at the top of her lungs.
And speaking of finding your voices, as moderator, I'm going to be popping out and hiding, and I'll let each of you find your voice and lead us through this discussion today. I feel like there's a lot we can talk about, but for those of you who are watching, listening, please send your questions in the chat, and we'll be able to pop them on the stream, and Joey and Samantha will be able to respond to them as they come in. All right, guys, take it away.
Nice. So, Samantha, before... gosh, it's so cool. Like Sheldon just pops off screen, but he's still here. It's amazing. He's in the green room. Hi, Sheldon. Sheldon, thank you so much, by the way. I just want to thank you for all the prep and the intention you put into this, getting us here today, and the framing that you did, and the bios, and bringing Samantha on the show. And Samantha, it's really good to have you. It's really good to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me. We have a lot of like crossing paths and overlapping worlds, so it's nice to be in the same chat together, not just passing by each other.
Yeah, for sure. So before we hit record or before we went live, we talked about the importance of like creating connection and psychological safety. And we were like, hey, this is a topic that we can spend like the next 3 days, like underscoring the importance of that. We should just start there. Like, let's unpack the importance of making people feel safe and seen and heard and connected to each other, connected to the mission at events.
Well, I think, the work that I do is so focused on nonprofit fundraising events. So I'm always looking at what is the science, the neuroscience, the group dynamic at play that connects audiences to a movement and helps to build that movement. How do we get them motivated to give? How do we get them motivated to get involved, volunteer, give their time and resource, and feel like they're a part of the movement? And it's interesting to see that COVID taught us a lot about gathering when we couldn't gather anymore. And I think in the nonprofit world for decades, we've been saying it is not the easiest way to raise money. It's not the most accessible way to raise money. It takes a lot of time and resource. But what we found is when we weren't gathering, we were losing engagement because folks didn't feel like they were part of the work or the organization anymore. So the sort of importance of gathering was highlighted. We learned a lot about gathering virtually. Look at us now, right? I don't know that we would have done this 5 years ago, but we learned a lot about how to find time and space together intentionally in virtual settings and even hybrid settings, which we do a ton of hybrid events. That's like our bread and butter, and the work that we do in the nonprofit sector is help organizations expand their accessibility in hybrid events. But as folks have been regathering, there's been a big conversation and a big shift around how do we do it different? How do we grow? How do we learn? How do we do it better? And we have some new tools to help us do that. Technology is on our side. It is like moving quickly. We have so many new tools like this platform, Restream, like LinkedIn Live, like the ability to have really easy access, cameras in our laptops that we can easily have broadcast content out to the world. Live streaming has become easier. We have content creators out there that are like digesting world news and information for us and putting it into fun, quippy, short content. So all of a sudden we've learned the gathering can be different. It can be easier to access. It can be really intentional. And we as a species have changed in how we value time and where we spend our time. And I'll tell you, a lot of research from those in the fundraising sector have yielded the same specific key important things about gathering. Gathering helps us move giving by helping people to feel like they are a part of something, helping them feel recognized and appreciated for their giving, and helping them to understand the stories of the impact and the mission. And that is the key critical element right now of a fundraising event being successful or unsuccessful. Is, did we help people feel connected, like they belong, like they're seen, like they're valued, like they're appreciated? And did we tell our story in a way that moved them, in a way that helped them feel like they understood the impact that they were having? And I see so many examples of this happening in real time right now. Like, it's happening all around us. And look at the movement that Beyonce and Taylor Swift have created with their concerts and their audience engagement and their social media engagement. But we also see it happening right now in the political spectrum too. We see like movements being created and generated by these gatherings that help people feel seen, help people to access the information, help people to feel like they're a part of something, and to understand the story of the impact they're having. So I feel like we've learned a lot in the past couple of years about gathering and celebrations and parties and the impact they can have. But I'm definitely understanding now the importance of how do we create connection and belonging and psychological safety for our audience members.
You're making my heart sing with all the things that you're saying. Like, I want to jump out of my chair right now. Like, so I went through a training with an organization called Exchange. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No.
But Exchange Approach, you should check them out. And for those of you who are out there that are like keynote speakers or facilitators, they're amazing. And it's all like neuroscience driven, psychologically driven, sort of like scientific based information and data on how to create psychological safety as facilitators and speakers and event conveners and event organizers. And one of the most important things that we talk about in that community, as a part of that community, and one of the teachers, the doctors that came on, was the late Dr. Danny Friedling, who's a neuroscientist. And he talks about the importance of neuroscience and activating human potential in any human ecosystem and environment, mainly events, right? And so we talk about like the 3C model. And just to simplify it, because I could spend the next 30 minutes unpacking the 3C model, but there's really 3 reasons why people come to events. And the reason people used to come was because you are some type of expert or subject matter expert. And like, you're going to give them all of this new knowledge and intellectual capital that they're going to leave from your event. But Samantha, to your point, information is everywhere. It's so hard to discern what's the truth now that like people are no longer just coming to your event for the first C, which is information, or I'm sorry, content in this regard, if we want to keep in mind with one of the C's, right? And so the second C is connection. It's like social capital, human connection. Yes. We want to connect with other individuals that are like-minded. And most event conveners and event organizers stop right there and miss the most important C. And the third C, which is, if you just do the first 2, people will come. If you want to do an event that people want to come back to, you got to nail community, which is the third C. And that's like this community. And one of the events that I recently attended, there was a video played of this little girl who was battling for her life. And after the video play, they went into the Fund a Need. And after the Fund a Need, we all, as a community of 150 donors, wrote that little girl letters.
Amazing.
Like love, endearment, connection. You're inspiring us. We're giving you hope. Like that third C was nailed so hard. And I, like 8 years 8 years later since that event, like I'm still talking about the power of that community. We could have solved world hunger. And it is something that community was really interested in working on. But, just think about the power of community. And the most important thing is, how can we create space where there's intentional interaction? Because after we wrote those letters, Samantha, we broke up in small pods in groups of 4. And in our pods, we designed it. Sort of the question we were answering was, how do we make more wishes for little girls or little boys like Hannah come true? And we were just so motivated. So how do we take these passive recipient experiences where instead of putting someone on stage for 3 hours and just downwind regurgitating information at an audience that just passively listening, can we create the space where maybe we make a 60-minute keynote speaker 40 minutes?
Yeah.
And then at the end of those 40 minutes, we ask the group, what did they learn? What did they love? Turn to a neighbor, share a takeaway. And maybe we don't do this at a formal gala, but I'm just offering a couple of ideas for all different types of events of how to make and take people from passive recipients of information to active participants in some meaningful connection activity or experience. Just wondering what landed for you there, if anything resonated.
Well, I'm glad that you tapped into neuroscience. I love to get really geeky with neuroscience because there's a lot there to unpack, right? There's a lot of how are we moving human potential? How are we creating a gathering that is intentional and create something that people leave there feeling awesome about? Paul Zak is a researcher, a social science researcher that's done a lot of breakdowns around how you create an immersive experience that ranks up there for folks as something I will always carry with me. I will always remember. I felt a part of. And one of his key elements, he has kind of 5 key elements he breaks down. Things like, did you create a psychological safe environment? Meaning, did you have proper staging? When people came, did they know where to go? Did they know what to wear? Did they know how to participate? What was expected? If they walk into, you and I have worked in probably a bunch of similar venues. You walk into a casino venue and the ballroom is like a little room in the back of the casino, and you have a guest that spent 4 hours trying to find you. They are not coming to your event feeling safe and feeling welcome and feeling ready to participate. So that do you have clear directions? Do you have clear signage? Do you have volunteers in place? Staging is such a critical element. And I was looking at just recent footage of one of Taylor Swift's concerts, and you see it everywhere. Everyone knows how to participate. There's friendship bracelets. There's sparkles everywhere. People know what to wear, how to show up.
Sparkles.
You gotta have sparkles. It sounds silly and absurd, but what it does is it helps your community feel like they belong, feel like they're a part of the event. And one of his key elements is there has to be an easy way to participate that you demonstrate to the audience how to participate in, and then give them the opportunity to do it. So if you're setting up an activity,
I love that.
Let's say, for example, the letter writing that you did, if you're setting up that activity, but you don't give anyone any direction and you simply say, here's a note card, I wouldn't do anything with it. I wouldn't know what it was for. It's we gave people a direction. We asked everyone to join in. It was clear. It was easy to participate in. I see this at all of the big political conventions happening right now. They have a theme for the night, and in their programming content, they give people signs that represent that theme, right? You and I are sitting here today, the day after one of the DNC coverage nights, and that night they had key speakers on stage that had signs representing them. So you could hold up a sign that said, the name of the speaker and cheer on that speaker. So it's a way that you can give people a sense of participation and inclusion. And in a formal gala setting, if you don't want to do that sort of active breaking the group dynamic up, which I think is, has risk inherent to it because you might lose attention. But if you don't want to do that in a gala setting, there's a lot of other ways to still help people feel connected to purpose. And we share this example all the time because it's one of our favorites. We worked with a furniture bank, and that furniture bank said, this sounds so silly, but one of the biggest requests that we get is just everyday items, like a can opener, like utensils, because we, think of we're creating a home for people who previously experienced homelessness, and some of the everyday key things that we need to make, a bedtime story is better in a bed and dinner is better at a table. Having some of those basic tools can make the difference of someone feeling like they have a home. And so in the gala, we served soup with no utensils and started the program by explaining, do you see something missing? And you could see the disruption in the room. Everyone's like looking, they're like trying to get the waiter's attention. And we welcomed everyone and said, do you notice something missing? And then we explained the number one item that is requested at the furniture bank is actually utensils. And you can see how important it is to have your utensils. So our wait staff is coming around now with your utensils, and all of these utensils are going to be cleaned and donated back to the furniture bank. So there's ways to do that, but you have to think intentionally around what is our purpose and how do we connect people to that mission and design our event to connect people. If we're, let's say, for example, we're a food bank and we're having a circus theme that never connects back to our mission, we can spend a ton of time and energy on a really awesome event, but never move our mission forward. And so we build our events from that perspective of how do we build that community and build that engagement, utilizing their mission and this story of their mission and connecting people deeper to the wish of the child at that event you were at, so that people walk away remembering it and telling it to other people.
What a powerful way to create a community-based outcome. The entire community connected through this shared experience of oh, that's why there's no silverware and utensils on the table. And then you're delivering that point. It just creates this feeling, this sense of belonging, where we go through this individual transformation of something so simple in my life that I have access to. Wow, it's really powerful to know that these individuals may not have access to the same things that I do. And I can step up tonight in a really big way by doing something so small, but have such a big and profound impact on someone else's life. Damn, Samantha, that's really well done. Really well done.
Well, do you know, every single social justice movement and every single religion are based on gathering, based on that ability to create shared belief systems, shared language, by bringing people together in space. And so I think that we're tapping into all those neurological things by really investing in how do we create intentional community and design for that intentional community. And, Priya Parker is an expert on the art of gathering, and she tapped into, I love her book. We use her work all the time, but she tapped into the importance of designing for a purpose, that this isn't, let's break it down, not just our galas, but let's think about all the other ways we gather. This isn't just to celebrate a birthday and check a bunch of boxes, or this isn't just a wedding and we check off yep, we got this, this, and this. If we design for a purpose and ask ourselves, what is the thing we want to accomplish by bringing this group of people together for this amount of time, we have a lot of power there that we can make choices about our event by designing to achieve those pieces. And you're in the tech space, you're in the creating an atmosphere and an environment that has so much to do with the potential of how we create that intentional community and design with a purpose.
Yes.
If I walk into a room that's bright lights, no music, I immediately think I'm in a workspace and I am not invited yet. Am I here early? But if I walk into a room that's got a vibe and there's music playing and there's cool lighting and there's great graphics on the screen that's helping me to tell a story, telling me what to do, where to go, now I'm oh, cool, I can participate, I can settle into it. Those things matter in how we connect people and say, lean in, participate.
I just had a light bulb moment. You just, you reminded me of an experience that we recently created. And okay, so let me share an experience that I went through as an attendee, and then I'll share the contrasting experience inspired by what I went through and said, ooh, we need to not do that. We need to do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So I went as an attendee to an event, and my wife and I, we have a 1.5-year-old. Something happened with the babysitter. She couldn't go, but I still wanted to go and be a part of this gala, this community, because it meant something to me. It was for people who were, you alluded to it earlier, really great organizations. And it's really sad the grave need that there is for moving homeless off the streets and into some type of appropriate housing. And so that's what this organization does. I went to the event to support, and there's a registration line and it's alphabetical, but I didn't know that because I'm in the back of the line and there's like small 8x11 pieces of paper at the front. And I get to the front of the line. I'm like, woo, I'm ready to check in. I'm here. Yeah.
No, you're in the wrong line. You need to go stand in that one.
Like, come on, guys. This is so rudimentary. So I had to
No.
go to the back of the other. So like that for me was strike one. Then strike two was going into cocktail hour. Here I am walking around aimlessly with my glass of wine, looking at the silent auction items, pretending like I care about the silent auction items that are literally the exact same at every other event that you go to. I'm trying to bump shoulders with another group of people that I can have some type of meaningful dialogue with. It kind of sort of happened, but it was surface level. It was like strike two. There's no like real intentional connection activities. Then strike three was seated at a table with a bunch of strangers that I don't know. No prompts, no connection activities at the table. Like, hey, by the way, turn to your neighbor at the table of 10 that you're at right now and just share, why are you here? None of that. Executive directors spoke for like 60 minutes, far too long. Dinner was served, auctioneer auctioneered, live auction auctioned. And then they were like, cool, thanks for the money. Have a good night. 2 months later, I get a form letter, rubber stamp from the executive director of the organization, thanking me for my donation that was printed, and all they had to do was stamp it. So a contrasting experience. I was like, wow, how did I feel as an individual? Did that event create the 3 C's? Did that event create psychological safety? And the answer for me was overwhelmingly no.
Mm-hmm.
So we designed an event to try and like bring those elements in. And we're like, what can we do to use technology to make people feel seen and heard and connected in a really meaningful way? We created this walkthrough experience where people walked into the event and we had TV screens with the recipients waving, saying hi, welcoming. It was like they're walking through a tunnel. So as soon as they walk in, even before they walk into the main program, they're being greeted meaningfully in a way that's like, wow, this is light and fun. And like, look at all these kids that are waving to me and saying hi. And then we took them on like these guided tours of this museum venue that we had, where they were interacting with these 90-second pre-recorded videos that we had filmed that were the donor and recipient, the recipient families helping the donors understand the impact of their donations. Then at the end, they got to meet all of those recipient families before we brought them into the formal program. Something super cool too is there was a starfish tree. So this was an organization that provides limb-saving surgeries to children. And starfish are the only animals that can regrow their limbs.
Oh, very cool.
And so one of the recipients has a 3D printer and printed 250 starfish with little sayings on them. And all the donors, after they went through this immersive experience with the 4 different videos where they got to learn about the impact of their donations, they grabbed a starfish. They hit the bell, which signified or symbolized the end of treatment in the hospital. You know, the kids get to hit the bell, so the donors got to hit the bell. Then they went into the main program. So it's like these super intentional, technology-driven, psychologically safe experiences where they get an opportunity to connect with the mission. Yeah. But more importantly, to connect with each other, to connect with the recipients and the families that they're benefiting.
Well, and I think that there's also a sense of, you tapped into 2 things there, a sense of like, I'm a part of something, right? Like if I can be a part of that starfish, then I'm a part and engaging in the mission. And you also get some recognition there, right? We've had an organization that provides shelter, and we had the shelter had a remodel happening in which they were getting a whole bunch of new trees. And so they created a wishing tree at the shelter, and they asked everyone at the event to send a message or a wish by adding a wish to the wishing tree. And at the event, we had these like beautiful, glowy, illuminated trees. And when they added it to the wishing tree, a volunteer photographed it, and then it went up on a digital wall. So as you were waiting for the program to start, you saw everyone's wishes populating. And the funny thing is that people then were like, "Oh, wait, I need to go do my wish, and I need to get over there." And some beautiful messages were shared that were so connected and help you feel not just a part of the lives of the people that you're supporting, but also a part of the room and the group. And then the MC filtered some of those in and acknowledged some of those really beautiful messages. And it was a really touching, easy way to help people feel like they were permanently connected to that mission. So that idea of like purpose, mission-centered activities. And can I just touch on something you said, silent auction? Get rid of them. Like, transactional giving is on the massive decline. It is where we spend most of our time and raise the least amount of money. And we are seeing that silent auctions are no longer of interest to donors, and they're raising less and less and less and less money because people want the connection. Spend that energy and that time into those connections. Even the simplest act of like every board member and staff member intentionally moving through the space and connecting people. I worked with a colleague that I used to call him the conversation bomber, because his best asset at an event is that he would walk up and be, hey, Joey, you work in the event space. Sam, you work in the event space. Do you two know each other? And then he would walk away. And so he just made his mission to make those connections all around the room based on the knowledge he had of the person. You both grew up in the Midwest, and he'd walk away. Like, he would find, I was at an event with them and they ordered chocolate. You're a chocolate lover. And he would walk away. Like, he constantly made those emotional and safe connections for people to get the benefit of human interaction versus stuff. Like, stuff is less important to us. And we've changed how we value stuff too. Like, if I want to win a prize, cool, have one raffle. Like, appeal to that like winning potential with one little fun activity. But all the time and energy that goes into silent auctions is just not yielding the benefit to the guest or to the organization anymore.
I think it's so powerful. I mean, you mentioned the power of creating little connections, right? The power of creating connection activities. Like, and earlier in this discussion, we talked about content, having cameras in the room. Like Julius Solaris, he's a LinkedIn guy that I follow. He's just tremendously insightful when it comes to data in the event world. And he talks about how you can use the cameras to create meaningful connections, right? Like maybe you're not talking about like doing something highly produced in the room. Maybe you're just using the cameras to create content. Like, he pulled a CVent study where it's like 101 opportunities to create content in a 1 hour event. Now, I don't know what those 101 opportunities are, but I'm sure, Samantha, if we sat here long enough, we could come up with them. But
probably
you don't always have to use the cameras in the room to create content.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I picked up my iPhone. We have 2 new employees at our company, and one client who is going through something challenging. There's a lot of uncertainty in her life. And I just spent 5 minutes doing a selfie video, telling these 2 new employees how awesome they were, how much I love them, how grateful we are to have them, and like how excited we are to have them as a part of our team and our small community, and just welcoming them to affirm that they're making the right decision by joining us, right? It was their second day. I did the same thing for our client. I got 3 messages back just full of love and abundance, and over, like, it brought so much joy to my heart to be able to give them that, just like that feeling of belonging and like being heard and recognized. And so I share that not to pat myself on the back of like, I'm doing, like, that's what I love to do. I love loving on people. And I share that because it's like, could you take 5 minutes? Could you record a video on your phone where you don't have to spend 10 grand on a camera crew to record a video and just like love on maybe 10 donors a day and just send them little personalized videos of like, hey, just want to share with you, like, God, this is the impact you're making here. It's just so powerful. So grateful for you. How powerful is that, just to get a personal note like that randomly during the week?
Well, and there's technology to help you do it. Not just the technology of the cell phone, but there's actually technology distribution tools where you could record that message for all your donors at the event and text them the same recording. It's just like, it was amazing to see you last night. I was so glad you were there. Thank you for being a part of the event, for supporting our work and our organization. I just really wanted to reach out and say, I appreciated you showing up for us. Simple, single message recording. And now you can use something like Rallycore, which is a messaging platform that you can say, send to all my guests. Lots of technology that's helping us to better connect to people.
So amazing. I can't believe we've already been going for 30 minutes.
We're there. It happened so fast. We could come up with a lot more content, I'm sure.
I know. This is
I know.
insane.
I was about to jump back in, but I didn't want to interrupt. The conversation has been incredible. I mean, you both have touched on some amazing things today, and just to kind of recap for people, in case there are any final insights that you want to kind of touch on, some of the things you talked about that really resonated with me is that people aren't coming to events just for content, for information. You know, they're coming for that connection, that community, and so we design our events to connect with people, to kind of create that connection that'll last after the event. So how else, based on all of those things that you talked about through technology, through really purpose-driven moments of creating comfort at the event, what are some other best practices in being innovative and kind of maximizing that communication that you can kind of underline here at the end for our guests?
Well, I mean, I think the ability to send a quick message, whether it be a voicemail, a video message, a handwritten note, I mean, that's like the best way to give that "I see you, I appreciate you" message. And I think that that's important. We're missing it a lot. Folks get to the end of their event and they're like, oh, it's over. But they forget that people just invested a lot of time and money and resource into their missions and want to be seen and thanked and recognized for that. So I think that that's the easiest one is gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. And it can be gratitude in lots of different ways. But definitely you want to show some love afterwards.
For sure. I just want to underscore that point because the importance of it can't be overstated. A great book, by the way, it was written by John Ruhlin. It's called Giftology, and it's all about how to create 8-figure relationships. And John actually, unfortunately, I just attended his funeral last Friday, lost his life. And it's just super sad and tragic and unfair. 44 years old and leaves behind 4 young girls and a wife, and just one of the greatest guys that I've ever known. And for him, it's all about love bombs. Like, how can we love on people and grow and scale gratitude to the nth degree? And like one of the things he did, Samantha, which in Sheldon, which is like super powerful. And I was like, wow, can we find something like this? Is he would do like the handwritten thank you cards. And when you open them, he had his book in there that was signed and a personal thank you note. When he'd be like featured on podcasts or when someone would hire him as a keynote speaker, you would open the thank you card and the video would play. Like just little touches like that may cost a little bit more, but God, how amazing is that? How impactful is that when you're looking to grow lifelong friendships with people, just to love on them in that way?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, sadly, I don't have any of those thank you cards for you two today. But I also want to express my gratitude for both of you coming on. And for the people at home who may not know you, what's the best way for somebody to find you online, to find you, whether LinkedIn or your personal website? Let the people at home know how they can follow you.
There's 3 easy ways to follow me. SwaimStrategies.com is the website to learn about like production support and event support and planning and strategy. LinkedIn is just Sam Swaim. I'm very active and happy to connect with you that way. Always happy to answer questions and help folks. Or follow our podcast, The Fundraising Elevator. We're on every podcast platform, and there's lots of great guests and information on there too.
That's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, and for me, just jump on LinkedIn. There's not that many goons on LinkedIn. You could probably find me. Joey Goon. Yeah. And
speaking of LinkedIn, that's where this is going to live after this recording is done. So even if you're just finding this after the fact, after it's live, and you still have questions, drop them in the chat, and Samantha and Joey will be able to connect with you and answer the questions and hopefully let you know anything. Oh, and there's Joey's amazing kid that he was talking about earlier.
She didn't get to say hi in real time, but she says hi through this photo.
Beautiful.
Make her physical presence known.
Thank you, Sheldon.
That's an amazing
Sheldon,
thing to
awesome.
end on.
Yeah,
thank you both so much for being here today. And everyone,